We'd like to call the work session to order. I'm not sure where Giovanna is, but no, I mean,
That's true.
bless her heart. If you, because we can start just going through it and want to do agenda review while agenda review until we wait for everyone to get here? Are there any questions on the minutes? I have a few minor changes, but nothing big. Statements and checks and treasurer's report. Any questions on that? For general legal update, Mr. Winters, do you have?
Board meeting.
Your update is the board meeting?
At the board meeting.
At the board meeting, okay. The first item on the agenda is a request of Horizon Performing Arts for a local governing body resolution for a charitable gaming license. Clerk Rowe?
This was one that he's been working on. This is one that's been working on, and we kind of, I don't know, we were out of the office, and we missed it. It should have been on the last agenda, but anyway, she finally got everything in for this agenda. So they're local. They're kind of like the group that was here before, but they do it for, I think it's Ypsilanti Schools for Arts. And they do a lot of different raffles and fundraisers, and they need to have this resolution in order to get a license from the state of Michigan.
Any questions on that? The two dates that they had in the agenda packet had already passed, so this is for future?
I think it's just, yeah, 'cause
In
they
general.
do a lot of different things. Yes.
Ms. Kaiser? That on?
No.
Could be a, oh,
For some reason, I think a year, but
it says into 10/21, I think.
yeah, I'm just going to look at the application.
It says on 10/8,
State.
all the dates were in October, so that's why I'm not exactly sure. What it is it allows them, the state of Michigan changed the law so that people could just, in order to have a raffle sale, you have to have one of these licenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're getting more and more of them coming to us. And that's all I know. Karen, do you know
That's
any
all
more?
I know.
Mr. Winters, do you have anything to add? That's all.
No,
Is it good for a year?
I'm still trying to get warmed up over here with,
I thought it was good for a year. It says in their letter that they intend on holding 50/50 raffles as well as auctions in the future.
You can find out. Are they going to attend?
I know the one meeting she said she couldn't, and I haven't heard from her, so I don't know if she just sent this over and Lisa heard from her, and I don't have an update, I apologize, on whether she's going to be here or not.
So 1 year? Because we have to put in 1 year for the resolution. Or we have to put something in.
No, it doesn't, it just has a request. We don't have to put in any dates. This is just saying that we approved it. To operate in the community for the purpose of obtaining license.
I thought in the past it was on a date specific. I don't think it was a year to year. I think it's just on the actual dates they've identified in their letter.
And the dates were in October, so it's past the dates.
I don't, based on that one that we just did, they were doing several different events. So
They have a
Maybe when they-
license for the,
I thought when they changed it, they,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I know in some of these that they have those card dealing things, and they have those over a period of time, so it may be longer than one specific event, but it could be over a 3 or 4, maybe a 6-month. Obviously, they're not doing that here, but.
Well, we, more
Ma-
information.
Madam Chair, do you think that, like, if we finish our work session a little early or something, like, we could maybe send her an email and ask, like, if she could give us updated dates, or give her a quick call so that we can move forward with it?
Could definitely,
Or just like, maybe later
could
we could
just
approve it
definitely
contingent
research it.
upon dates that all 3 full-time elected officials can agree on?
There's a letter from the IRS that talks about the effective date being April 25th, 2017, and the accounting period ending December 31st. I don't know if that's, it's actually timestamp. It's date stamped February 2nd, 18, so it may be December 31st of this year, I guess.
You think they've already had the event, and they just need our confirmation?
where she says in a letter they're planning on having several things.
Well, she lists out 3 specific dates. Well,
Yeah, for that, right. I was just going to look and see on the state website, which we could probably find out before the
well,
Yeah, for sure.
we'll go back, since people are present now, for the agenda review. Which one?
It sounded good.
Jojo, you're trying to get yours up?
It says they can be sold year-round, which is what she's applying for, a charitable gaming license, or at one-time events. What she's applying for, under the state website, it says it's a year-round, annual. They have an annual license, it says. So that answers that question.
You lost it from the front screen.
Joe, while you're still doing that, you want us to continue through the agenda? So we're going to do an annual for 2019?
I don't know. I don't know if it's like a running year. I haven't,
Well, okay.
I mean, you know what I mean? It could be 12 months from where she starts. I don't know. I didn't get that.
It was,
far.
they started in February of 18.
Yeah, but her application's now, so I don't know if it goes from now till November of
19, right?
19. That's
it's
what I'm
1 year.
guessing. Yeah, just 1 year. That's
Okay.
what this says, 1 year, but I didn't know. Yeah,
So we'll just add 1 year?
that's the way I see it. That's all that they can get from the state.
The next item, while we're getting that up and running, the request approval for the Tower Point. Doug, do you want to talk about the assignment of the lease and grant of easements for the cell tower located at 2801 Holmes Road for lump sum payment, $176,400?
This is the last in terms of the potential sale, grant of assignment, long-term lease. There's different terminology used to describe these transactions, but the bottom line is this is an assignment of our rights under the lease with Tower Point to collect rent from 2801 Holmes Road. The it didn't have quite the same value as the other three. That's why the dollar amount that we negotiated is less. But I will point out that it's more than what we had negotiated or they had offered about a year or so ago. This one actually is for $176,400, but you have to also add into it the $18,400 that was received in August. That was the actual annual paid in advance. And normally, in these kinds of transactions, you would have to prorate those dollars. As part of the negotiations, they agreed for us to be allowed to keep the entire rent that was received in advance in August of this past year. So it's closer to 200,000. Well, it's 194, 195, close to it in terms of a lump sum payment. And I think, again, that's in the township's best interest. There's also a provision in there that if they co-locate additional telecommunications, they will divide that revenue on a 50-50 basis. So I leave it to the board's discretion to, if they wish to designate any specific purpose for these funds. In the past, we've used them to pay off indebtedness for the Seaver Farm, for the other cell towers that we negotiated the similar sale/assignment. Trustee Wilson keeps on talking about trying to turn over more rocks. This may be one of the last rocks to turn over for a while, but I think it's a good win-win situation for the township. And again, I leave it to the board's discretion to determine what project or infrastructure project or indebtedness, if any, they would wish to allocate those funds for. But it is in final form and proper form to be signed by Supervisor Stumbo and Clerk Rowe if the board is so inclined. A lot of time went into this. I'm glad it's finally resolved.
Okay. I know we've also talked about a street sweeper at some point. But, I mean, I'd have to see if we can operate it and, you know, make sure we have people who can operate the equipment or just contract for it or something, but, all right. And I apologize, but we're going to switch back to the agenda. Huh? What did you want? Oh, Mark is on the agenda. Okay. Mark, also on the agenda is request for the grant from the State Court Administrator's Office for highway safety planning in the amount of $62,000 and the amount from the Michigan Drug Court in the amount of $94,000. Would you like to speak to that real quick before we get in? Good afternoon.
Green light on?
You have to push a button.
How about that button? There we go.
Very good.
So this is a continuation of our drug court that we've been operating now for a number of years. I believe this is our 6th year for it. Up until now, it had always been OHSP, Office of Highway Safety Planning funds. This year, we've gone through our 3-year period of time that we can have OHSP funding, and they're putting us on a step down on OHSP, and we'll start next year being fully funded by the Michigan Drug Court Grant Program. So this year, it's a combination of the 2 grants to give us the funding for the program, to run the program as we've been running it in previous years. It's basically the same amounts we ran with last year. I think it's a $1,000 difference from last year to this year, fiscal year 19, which has already started. So the only real difference this year is one, that $1,000 amount, and then 2, that we'll be operating 2 grants this year, and then we'll transition into just 1 grant again next year.
Question? So we're accepting the grants.
Yes, this is a request for the board to approve the grant contracts. There's 2 separate contracts this year, and we're requesting that those be approved by the board and entered into with the state to operate those grants for the drug court program.
Same thing we've been doing last year.
Yep, and the year before, and the year before.
Okay. All right. We'll go, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go back to the preliminary budget review. General fund is first. Is that or Giovanna?
Yes, Giovanna Neal, Accounting Director, and we will be going over the general fund first. If I could ask Trustee Wilson, if you could push that screen back for me a little bit so that we can see. Thank you. There we go. Thank you very much.
Good idea.
Where it falls down and kills somebody.
All right, and all of the elected officials were sent updated materials last Friday, I believe. So everyone has an updated narrative and detail,
It was hand-delivered for
hand-delivered.
the trustees and board.
So you do,
You didn't get yours?
Left it on your porch. It was on the chair on your porch.
Might still be there.
A thief.
Yeah, possibly. I looked at my porch.
okay, and what I'd like,
Richard got it probably.
what I'd like to do real quick is just go over a couple information tidbits that I think you might be interested in, and then we'll go into the detailed line-by-line items. So if you have any questions, what I'd like to do is just did some graphs, just for an overview. This is for the revenues by classification, so you can see where our revenues are coming from, the general fund. I'm not going to go over them. You can kind of look at them at your leisure. Again, it's just for informational purposes for you. This one is budget expenses by classifications. You can see that our personnel and our fringe benefits are our largest expenditures. And this is one just by department, the amounts for each department. I just thought you would like to see just an overview of that. Then I would like to go over the capital outlays that we have within the general fund. We have some network infrastructure expansion. These are from our computer support department. Workstation replacements, server replacements, monopads, business processing management software. This would be a phase one if we so choose to, if the board so chooses to approve this project when it does come up. Improving any internet infrastructure and cellular repeater and copier. That job there, that cellular and repeater copier, actually we're getting that done now. We didn't think it was going to go in 18, that was approved, and we are having it done now. So that will come off, and it's just for a copier now. So I will have to adjust that, and you'll see that on the final draft. So, and then we have $40,000 for furniture and fixtures for a total overall of $580,000 in capital outlay. I thought you would like to see, oh, can't see the top part. This is the 2018 budget amendments for general fund through the year. I know you do them, we do them almost every meeting. I thought you might like to see, one place where they're all at. Okay, and I won't go over each one of them because there's 3 pages. So if you have any questions as you're looking over them, please let me know. These are the ones that have been approved.
The only one point I would like to make is that the Civic Center roof project will not be done this year.
That is correct. And then I thought you would also like to know the new changes as far as our personnel. We had some changes, we had some new positions, and we had some restored positions. So these were for 2018. These were all board approved. And then for 2019, we do have some requests. We have some new and we have some vacant positions and also some restored. And again, these would all be a pending board approval. So we have for human resources, a human resource assistant. There's a vacant position for the residential services director. That is 50-50 between general fund and environmental services. There's a request to restore a vacant position for park operations superintendent and one to restore the building operations superintendent. A new collections financial coordinator for the court was approved in 2018. It was not filled, and we did not budget that again for 2019, so that will have to come back to the board. We have a vacant chief building official in our building fund, and we have a request for a new full-time hydro operator in our hydro fund. So I thought you'd like to see them all in one spot. And that's just all I have for you as far as information-wise, and we can just go into the budget. We have narratives and detailed items for each one of them.
Madam Chair, I just want to say thanks. I really like this layout, and it's nice.
Oh.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor.
In the general fund, in 2000, prior to 2008, 2007, 2008, we had two positions. One was a building operations superintendent, and the other was a parks and recreation superintendent. So when we went through the hard times, we combined them and had one person doing it. So we're requesting to go back to having someone over the Parks Department, park maintenance, and then having a building person who's responsible for that. And that's in the proposed budget as we go through it.
Giovanna, we put that on a flash drive that Nancy gave to you.
Yes, I can put that on there right now.
We can start on the revenue for general fund. You want me to, while Joe's getting that ready? So the draft, between the draft budget and what is before you this evening, if there were any changes, we grade them, so you could tell exactly what was changed, and the verbiage was also changed in it.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
do you know, I don't think the online copy shows that same highlighting thing that we usually have for the draft.
Pardon me?
Like the copy of the draft online, it doesn't show that same highlighted portion, does it? I don't,
It was a PDF, it should have, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should have
It
shown
should.
yellow.
Well, maybe, go to line item 641003
okay.
and see, that's the only one that looks like it's been changed in the revenue. 641003. And we are expecting to get $80,000 in this. It's not in the budget. The verbiage is in there, but the actual dollars are not in there yet. They budgeted it in hydro. So we're going to have them go to general fund and transfer out to hydro. Because we want to make sure it doesn't get confused with the city of Ypsilanti. We have to pay, what, 10% of gross revenues? So we want to make sure that it's never included in that number.
These funds are actually township funds that have been escrowed for the last 25 years, and they're now starting to be released, 10% per year for the next 10 years. So these are funds that belong to the township. The
That
city actually got paid their portion. These are our funds here.
Right, and we paid for the improvements in them, so it's appropriate to go back into the general fund and transfer out. There's an overall approximate 8% increase from last year to this year for the property taxes. We talked about that in one of our first presentations. Is there any, the revenue is pretty self-explanatory. Does anyone have any questions on the revenue?
I had one question. Where in this packet can I find like the revenues versus the overall expenditures for the total general fund?
It's in the, you're looking at activity?
Like the proposed budget has the revenues, but then we have the total expenditures. Where do I find?
It's on your printout. You have,
I am for each department, but I couldn't.
yeah, it is. It the revenue?
No, not the revenue. I want it, where we show the revenue and then you show the expenditures and.
Each department has it in each.
Right, but I was looking for the overall total general fund, you know, where we show all the revenues versus all the expenditures.
That's at the last page.
I looked and I couldn't find it.
It's on the very last page.
Are there any other questions on revenue? No.
Yeah, I was looking for it in here. My last page is about capital assets, so,
It's on page 120.
thank you.
Madam Chair,
That's-
Yes.
I just like, the reason why it's not is because the latest PDF isn't uploaded. Like, I was just comparing mine and Joe's on the screen there. And the date is 11/16/18, which I can read because I got my glasses. But the one on, that's uploaded from the supervisor site online is 8/24/18.
Are you looking at the the website itself?
Yeah.
You're not looking at the packet, you're looking at the
Well, it should be the
supervisor's
same, shouldn't
website.
it? Why wouldn't it be the same?
Yeah, you haven't updated
It's a
that.
draft budget.
But you haven't updated where you have it posted on your?
No, maybe, well, let me look through the packet.
I'm not
here.
sure.
I'll
I was
pull up
asking
that
about
PDF
revenue.
then.
Do we have questions?
I understand, I'm just trying to make sure that I can read along.
I don't
with
think
you
what
guys.
you're saying is the supervisor's site where the.
Well, I'm telling you that I
has not
just
been
went to,
uploaded.
right.
Right. But. I'm sorry, what page you say, 120?
It's on 120.
Are there any questions on the revenue? Okay, good. Township Board? So, do you want me to?
Yeah, you can just go right through them.
Yeah, that's what I'd like.
Yeah, we'll just go right through them.
Yes.
And this is going to be, it's in the township board, it's in the clerks, it's in the treasurers. I didn't see it in the supervisors that speaks about a compensation committee. I'm just going to tell you, I'm still opposed to that. That should be our job to set those, because all we're going to do is appoint people that we select. They're going to compensate you however this board directs them, and we can.
Well, the compensation committee could be a committee of the board. I thought that's.
Why would we, that's why we were elected, though. Why wouldn't we make those decisions? Why would we hand it to a committee who's generally going to, I just think it's a way of shading it from the public. We say, well, we didn't give ourselves a raid, we had a committee that did it.
No, we're,
Ultimately, we're going to appoint those people anyways. Why wouldn't we just take the ownership of the process anyways? That's why we were elected.
Stan, my understanding from the last meeting that we had agreed that we would have a committee to make recommendations.
I opposed it at the last meeting as well,
But-
so you guys, I'm just voicing my opinion.
Well, you're not listening, though. It's not a committee, a compensation committee of residents. It's a committee of the board to make a recommendation.
Well, now I'm even more confused. So we're going to pick 4 people out of 7, 3 out of 7?
Yeah. Well, I thought the trustees wanted that.
Madam Chair, that's not something that I want either. I would agree with Stan that, I agree with what you're saying, that we're already a committee as a 7-person board.
Right, we have a committee in place.
And that's that.
Well, I thought we talked about researching the history of what people were paid. You had a list of all different communities that you wanted to do.
Right, well, my perspective from that and talking about all those different committees is that anytime we bring a person, puts something on the agenda and brings it to the board to discuss any rates of pay change, I think that we should, someone has to take the lead on researching the history and what other comparable
So not having a
communities do.
committee, just having one person is what?
Well, just, someone's got to take the lead and put it in the packet and submit it to the clerk's office so that we all have the information to look at the board. But I think that I agree with Stan, we're an elected board and we are a committee together. And, 7 people should be making a democratic vote on salaries.
I was just trying to, who can bring it forward? Like, who do you?
Well, who
that's
put
what
it
I
on
was
the
just-
agenda last time?
I guess I'm.
Like whoever puts it forward to the
Well, it'd be no
agenda.
different than any of us bringing an item to a work session. I mean, we all have the right to bring an item to a work session. So if anybody at any point wanted to bring something forward, they bring it forward and distribute 8 copies, like we would do with anything else we wanted to talk about.
Monica?
Yeah, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm not really sure about the compensation committee, but I know there's an item on the work section agenda today in regards to the planning, parks, and zoning boards. I'm assuming that what the other two trustees are saying is that if someone else wanted to present an item and do the research in regards to what trustees are paid at municipalities that are similar in nature to Ypsilanti Township, then they would have to do that research and bring it forward. And I mean, I'm assuming that's what's being said. I'm not, the compensation, I do remember that language being there before, and I do remember Trustee Eldredge not wanting the language there before. And so I guess I don't really know if there would need to be one, because if someone went and did the research, brought it to the clerk, asked for it to be on the agenda, then I guess that's how it would move. And I guess that would be the question and I'm just going to ask the question, is the reason why that is there is because someone's asking for the research to be done? I mean, I guess that's the question.
Madam Chair, I think that was the intent behind this. Like, I think that that's how this all came up, and it was, just like an idea thrown out, like, oh, well, so, we need people to do the research. And I don't think the intention of that was bad at all, but I think that as a board, like Stan was saying, if we want anything to be brought to the work session, like, whoever's interested in that item should be bringing the stuff. Bring the dinner with you.
Okay. So there was nothing budgeted for that, but that was just language, okay? I don't, doesn't matter to me.
Madam Chair?
Just my only comment, okay, I'm sorry.
I know that we've always thought that the trustees were paid a reasonable salary, and I know that when we cut back a number of years ago, and all of us took cuts and no raises and everything, and then we started getting raises a year ago. And I guess the decision is, should we look at the trustees again and see how they are compared to other municipalities similar to ours, and to see if they're still, as we thought many years ago, were on the high side and should still not maybe merit any increases right now, or should we look at them and say, gee, they are sort of in the middle now. I think they're probably still on the high side. But I don't know. So, I mean, is that something we should look at? And
Madam Chair. I think that's a great idea, Larry, and I think that, I know that everyone here is busy and does their fair share, but maybe that would be something that, like, Karen Wallen could help us, gather that, because it's more of an HR sort of job, and just, look, it's like salary comparison, like if we were to hire new people, and, that's well within something that has a lot of experience doing, so, and then bringing it back to the board for us to say, like, no, we're,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just before this digresses off, I didn't bring this up for the trustee. That was not my intent at all. Because the same language is in some of the full-time officials. So I just want to make sure, I didn't bring it up because that's what I was asking for. I just think the whole terminology should be taken out of every budget.
I think you could have access to it. I could find out through MTA, but every single job that you can think of, from elected officials to custodians to HR directors, you can find that all out. The key to that, which I think needs to be, that's probably what the board needs to make a decision on, is who are we going to compare ourselves to? Do we compare ourselves to the Big Ten? Yeah, because those are, the ones with the highest SEVs. We're probably the lowest in the group. I don't know for sure, but probably, because I think it's based on population, the Big Ten group is. Or do we say we want to take an average? Because you can be all over that place.
It's a policy decision.
Right, that's a policy,
what
and
I
that
was
should
looking
come,
for.
that's what you, and that, so that's really why, and maybe that would work by taking a position, taking one thing and researching it, but it's a huge spread from, from what a trustee or any of us, or the same way with the HR director, or even an accounting director, those probably that are harder to fill probably are more standardized, wages, but, they're driven by SPs and populations are the two things, and so, or you can just say, we just want to do it by population, or you want to, and use, because MTA, because it's not that hard to use, and I think even trustees, we could give you the passcode if you don't have that, because we are members, and you can log in, and you can play with that all day long.
All right. So removing
Sorry about
it, no, that's all right, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Removing a sentence is not a problem. I would just wonder if there's a problem with the numbers. Is everyone okay with the board numbers?
Yeah, numbers are fine.
In due process, this is for prosecution and domestic violence. We have a budget amendment on the agenda this evening that's going to increase the numbers, which is why we've increased 2019 numbers. So there has been an increase in domestic violence and just prosecution with drunk driving and traffic, or drunk mostly. So are there any questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. This number is coming from, when the increase itself, is that, it may not be, I'm just confused. I want to make sure, is it coming from just basically a budgetary increase, or is that expected within like fines or anything like that? Is that expected increase?
It's based on, we have a budget amendment, so it's year-to-date expenses
Okay, all right.
projecting for 2019.
Yeah, okay, because it confused me with the due process. I just want to make sure it wasn't fines, projected like fines increases.
No, this is McLean and Winters that does a prosecution and then domestic violence.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. So are we okay on that?
Yeah.
For the supervisor, that was removed. The language for the Board of Compensation Commission, that was removed. The annual salary is at 3%, is what we budgeted for 2019. The same as the Teamsters. There is, auto allowance was brought up in 2018, and we put 3,000 in. I didn't know if the board wanted to do that again this year.
Yeah, Madam Chair, and the board could correct me if I'm wrong. I thought last year we put 6,000 and there was 3,000 from because that's what everybody that was getting allowance was getting. Part of the problem was that we were pulling 3,000 from Jeff Allen's because he was gone. And because it's in a different fund, it's in the Waste Management Fund, they never pulled it out. So theoretically, the supervisor should have gotten 6,000 last year and only got 3,000. I still think that we should give her 6,000 like we give every other employee here that has an allowance. And also, I guess we need to also come back to the salary. I know there was a lot of discussion at the time in October when we talked about the salaries and everything. I still have the things pretty much going back to the Big Ten, and I guess I can pass them out if I'm not jumping ahead of myself here.
Well, for 19, okay.
Madam Chair, just while Larry's passing those out, like, I would prefer that when we said, removing that committee line under 101-171-000-703-000, it says at the last piece of that, the annual salary is determined by the board. And I think that should be our standard language instead of that committee part, just for,
Right.
when you're thinking about adding it or changing it.
Is it somewhere else?
No, I'm just saying.
That language is only in the supervisors
Yeah,
section.
it does.
The other ones speak to a compensation committee.
Which ones? I thought we didn't take that out.
I did it in supervisors, but I must have missed it in the other one.
Okay.
So I'll make it.
So the only thing, I did not rebudget the $3,000 for the vehicle, even though it was in last year's. The other large change was, there was one person that was not using the health care. They were getting a buyout, and they think they have to take it this year. So I had to budget that, so that's a large increase. I will know by December whether they're going to take it or not.
Madam Chair, if I can just ask, the treasurer mentioned auto allowances and other people. Joe, do you know how many other people have auto allowances in the township?
We had two. We had the residential service director, which was Jeff Allen, and Mike Razik.
So we only have one currently.
That's true.
And just for some history on that, we went to that because it was so expensive. We really weren't in the business of operating cars, you know, having a full-time mechanic and all those kinds of things. Like years ago, we did this, and we said, let's stop having a, you know, because that, you know, we had to have a car for the people who drive a lot. And we said, well, why don't we just give them a stipend and they can use their own cars? We can get out of the business that we aren't very good at anyways and save a lot of money, because we had a full-time mechanic and all the OSHA rules and everything, and the oil and all the stuff we had to keep up. So.
Then you're doing reimbursements. If you do reimbursements for mileages, that's at 50, I think it's 54.5 cents per mile. So if they turn those in, that could be pretty pricey as well, so.
Do we know if other communities use auto allowances?
I do not
The
know.
only reason I ask is we're using summaries from other communities for salary. That's the only reason I ask.
I didn't bring this up, so Larry did.
Yeah.
I was trying to stick to the budget here.
Well,
It's hard.
well, and I'm just saying that if you look at the top 10, this is the Big 10, even if you took out the low and the high, that the medium is still, I probably lost the one I wrote on, I think was 106. I'll probably give it to somebody.
Oh, is this one? Did I get one with notes?
Yeah.
Then give me one of the other ones.
Yeah.
Instead of your notey one.
Yeah, so if you take out the high and the low, the medium still comes up to 96,000. And I think a $90,000 salary for our supervisor is probably below what it should be.
I wouldn't mind if we did this in 2020. Like, this is what makes it uncomfortable to talk about compensations. That's why if you had a committee of the board that said this is what we're recommending.
Or if we just, or if we came up, like we said earlier, we came up with a policy that just said that, of course,
Madam Chair.
like we know for some positions are going to be really competitive and we might not be able to do that, but just overall for the whole organization and said, we want to be at the mean for the Big Ten. And that's our, and that way it takes out all the feelings or whatever, or if we're going to say we want to be in the lowest third, or we want to be with, doesn't have to be the Big Ten, we can do something else, and then we always use that for all of our salaries. Of course, we negotiate for the unions, but all of our salaried, non-union, we could kind of use that as a driving force for what we kind of pay folks, knowing that when the market's tight on some kind of positions, you're not going to post it at that and not going to get anybody, so.
That would be a policy.
But it would be, so then it takes out,
Madam Chair, I agree with the idea of the policy, and I know that like we all get frustrated because we're sitting here and just like talking about the same thing, but it's so important to do that. And I know it's uncomfortable because you're so humble and just like feel weird about talking about your salary, but it's really important, and it's important that our board can do this work even in front of our public and not having a committee that does stuff. But I do think that moving forward for our future, I would love to see some sort of policy, and maybe we would use these 10 places that Larry brought forward, just to have that as a set standard for a non-union. I think that would be a great idea moving forward.
And Madam Chair, and all these numbers are 2 years old. Or a year and a half.
Forgot your references, Larry.
Pardon me?
I said you forgot your references. I need them in APA format. Thank you for bringing it.
So we'll
What, can I just ask a question? I didn't want to move on, but would everybody, and I hear what you said, Stan, but would you be willing, like, to maybe us to set up a group and maybe have Giovanna or HR, I don't know who else would make sense to be on it, maybe 4 people, or maybe,
I would.
and set up the policy, and just for the policy? Not to come back with a wage, but just with a policy saying, generally, this is how we're going to look at, it's just an idea.
So the only question that we really need answers is to rebudget the auto allowance as we did in 2018.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would actually concur. I think this discussion with Clerk Rowe, this discussion is going around the bend. I don't think it's actually getting to the point of actually getting solved. So if it's not going to be a compensation committee, which is fine, and it's uncomfortable to discuss it as a board, which is, I guess, then it has to be somewhere in the middle. So that means that if we're going to be looking at salaries, just like, people would normally look at salaries if they were in the corporate workplace and they looked on Glassdoor to compare salaries or pay scale, then someone would need to do that. Now, the question is, who is designated to do that? If the board is not comfortable with bringing up these issues at the table, then someone which needs to be, or someones need to be designated to do that, as with Clerk Rowe's suggestion, using the information from the 10 largest counties, not counties, townships, with MTA, and gathering that information and coming back with, these are the recommendations. That does not mean that the board has to act either way.
Right.
What it does mean is that at least the board has the information.
Well, and Larry's brought it up twice. So exactly what you guys wanted to happen, he's done twice.
Madam Chair.
And it doesn't work well. I don't-
Maybe, right, so I hear what everyone's saying, and I know that we want to, I think it's important to discuss these things as a board, no matter how uncomfortable they are. But I can understand Clerk Rowe's, medium of having, maybe Larry and Joe and Karen Wallen, and I don't care who else you pull out of the hat, can sit down and, draft a policy and bring it back to the board so that we're not doing this, next year and moving forward. I think it'd be a great step for our township to have a standard policy.
So I just need an answer on the auto allowance.
Madam Chair,
Yes, if we,
Auto allowance
Madam
is
Chair.
fine with me.
all right.
yes, make sure you put it at 6,000 as it should have been. I know we had approved for 6,000, so make sure you budget that. And I think that should be also taken into consideration when you're thinking about the salary. Salary set at 84,000 and 6,000 added on for vehicle allowance. So you're unofficially 90,000 really. So we're getting right there close to that median that Treasurer Doe was speaking on. So.
Okay. Does everyone agree with that? For accounting, are there any questions on accounting? I'm just really trying to get.
Cats.
We're in the A's, so, the only correction that I found is on page 25. I need to decrease the number for the membership and dues because we moved that to the board
In the board's budget.
for professional services.
Right, so we'll take that 5,000 that I
So
had
I'll reduce
budgeted
it.
in mind, that I was going to pay for the Munitrex, the citizens dashboard, we're moving that up to the board. So I will remove that for the final.
Independent auditing is basically the same, and the 3% increase for hosts, Mike, and Deal. Assessing, there was a shift from one permanent person going up to supervision. Other than that, there's not a lot of changes.
I just had a question overall, 'cause it came through several budgets. There's several like salary positions and stuff, and I know you said in there 3% for like matching the Teamsters contract. So will we do that resolution when we do the board resolution? Is that the plan for
Yeah.
salary individuals? Okay.
Yeah.
In December.
Yeah, thank you.
Legal services. This includes everything except for domestic violence prosecution and nuisance abatement cases. We did not budget for negotiations, and there were 3 this year, so that's why we're doing a budget amendment that's on the agenda. Any questions? Clerk's office, we moved 1 person from permanent wages up to salary supervision for the deputy of elections. There are no elections budgeted for next year.
Stay that way, not go away.
Does anyone have any questions on that?
My only question was, and I know I didn't put it in my, we didn't put it in our budget because before it was always going to be the computer, and I know there's a huge amount of IT stuff in there, and we've tried over and over and over to do the software for the document management, but I wasn't sure reading, I tried to read through there on all that
That's
software.
budgeted in 266, 200,000.
Okay, that's what I was wondering about.
Yeah.
I was trying to understand all the things that were in there. Thank you.
Yeah,
Process flow management.
Yeah.
Document.
Workflow.
Workflow is the term, yeah.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Just want to make sure I have clarity. In regards to line item 709000, I see in 2018, there was a budget, amended budget of $20,228 for overtime, and then basically only $12,246 was used. The requested budget for 2019 is $500. That's because of the fact we don't have
No
any
elections.
elections next year?
Right.
Okay, just
They
wanted.
probably won't have any overtime either.
No, the only time we would ever have overtime is if somebody's at the counter, and usually they'll just say they can go home earlier than that. But if not, then, you know, if they have to work through lunch a little bit or at the end of the day, but it's not them. It doesn't happen much. People really go by our closing out there, where it says 12 to 1. I think Treasurer's Office has the same thing. People are there at the counter sometimes.
Are there any other questions on the clerk's budget? On human resources, we did propose there used to be 3 full-time people in that department, and there's like 1.5. There's 2 budgeted in there, but the other one helps with parks and recreation. So we're requesting that we restore one of those positions that were there to assist HR. And it'll come back to the board for actual approval, but we put it in the budget.
Madam Chair, just a quick question. How long has that position that is asking to be restored, basically, when was it eliminated?
It's 8, probably 7, 8, 8 probably, 8, 9.
It's even before then, because we never really,
No, it was
Yep.
Regina.
we never filled the HR director, right?
It was before I came.
We haven't had an HR.
And I was here in 11, so it would happen before that.
Because there was a
There
director.
was 3, and then
2
we went
people
down.
did
Yeah.
benefits and.
Madam Chair, just for logistics and thinking forward, since we had our discussion a little bit about all the different positions, it would be great to see that one filled first so that they can help Karen not do so much, you know.
I would like residential services director to be filled. It's been vacant.
That one too, that one too.
For a year, and I would like that, but
maybe one.
I agree. And then we also budgeted in here for a health and safety to do all the MIOSHA and OSHA and training for the employees, and Michael Sarin, to have him do those duties. He's really, really good at that.
Well,
Yeah.
because of the dam has a lot of compliance that he has he's very detail-oriented, and so he would be able to step right in and help out in that position.
And is that in, where do we budget that at?
We budgeted
HR for Michael, or did you do it? in Michael's budget?
7,000 in this position to do those duties.
With the idea that that's going to be Michael.
In HR, yes.
What we're trying to do is get prepared for when people retire too. Succession planning is important, and Michael, there's no one that can take over for him currently. So there's budgeted a full-time position. So we just have to get ready.
Did have a quick question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I know that we're looking to possibly add the HR position in 2019. Is it also the estimates for healthcare costs? That's also
Yes,
included?
that
It's
has
all in there.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Whenever there's an empty position,
Yeah.
we always do a family package fringe. So if they come in as single, that, of course, that will drop. But we
Okay, of
always,
course.
we always go as a family so that we've got more budgeted than what we need in case they do have a family. So
Okay, thank you.
And they will come back to the board. So we just put them in there. if it happens. Board of Review, there should be no questions on that, I don't think. Okay. Sure.
Who's back in the HR? We're buying apparel for people. Can you explain that?
Yeah, the building department, ordinance department,
This is all contractual.
assessing department, they all have apparel, but there's departments that don't, which are clerk, treasurer, supervisor, HR, accounting. So everyone else has apparel, like, I call it swag, but I'm not sure if that's a professional term.
So is that stuff they're required then to wear it to work?
For, we could have it for dress down day on Fridays. And people can always buy more if they want.
And they can wear them to work, I mean, or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Friday is dress down day, yeah. Unless they bought something. But the idea is just to have everyone have the opportunity to get some apparel that has Ypsilanti Township. Does that answer your question, Stan? You're welcome. Treasurer's office? The biggest change from the draft budget is that there is one person that was not receiving health care that will receive health care. And Stan, in this budget, it was requested to budget for apparel. So we said instead of budgeting it in everyone's budget, to put it actually in HR. Yes?
I have the same question about overtime again, Madam Chair. So on this one, basically, it looks as if, basically, in 2018, it was 1,300 that was budgeted. 930 was used as the activity, and then basically 2019 is 1,800. So,
What are you looking,
I'm sorry, line number 70900, regular overtime, sorry about that. Yeah, so just questioning the
the
income.
overtime is also for the dog clinic that they do.
Okay.
And
the Saturdays, they have to be open for tax. Aren't you open for taxes on
No,
Saturdays?
but we do stay.
Through lunch.
We work through lunch 2 times. We do, because of month ends, we have to sort of balance out. There's 1 or 2 at month end that we will keep people over on December 31st or the last day we work to balance everything out. We have the dog clinic, as Brenda had mentioned, and then we stay open later on the last 2 days of our collecting December, or the last day we work, whatever that is, the 22nd or whatever, we stay open an hour later at night for people to get in. And then the last day of collecting budgets, we stay open 1 hour also. So. And work through lunch on those days, so.
yeah, they handed it out. Any questions on that? Building operation? Any questions on?
We did budget for the building, oh, what's the title? Building operations supervisor. 100% there. That was not last year. Previously, that position we had budgeted in 774 and 226, and now we've moved it to just one position. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, question, sorry, Madam Chair. I see that we're, yeah, as you had mentioned, Madam Chair, that we're moving back to the operations director and the park director. And I know basically with the new master plan that is going out to the public, they did a valuation of all 27 parks in Ypsilanti Township and, looking at various improvements or even deletions that could be in those parks. So would that be something that this park director would manage?
Deletions as far as?
So like, for instance, some park space that could be converted to just space because of the fact that it is not being used. I hope that makes sense. So in other words, there's park space in Ypsilanti Township. Some of the smaller parks in various communities, areas, not communities. That park space either it's not being used efficiently, or better yet, is just not being used. And so that person that fills this park director position, my question is, will they evaluate what is already inside of the master plan once it goes out for public view, and then obviously once it gets adopted by the board, because the master plan looks very much into each of the parks and their uses and their lack thereof. I hope that makes sense.
It does.
Yep.
This is the building operations, but
Okay.
the parks operations would be the person who maintains them.
Okay,
So, and then the park commission follows the master plan, and then we fund the replacements or removal.
Okay.
Or what they are recommending usually.
Okay.
So
All
we
right.
did budget for more improvements and replacements for 2019 like we did in 2018.
okay.
So that position wouldn't necessarily
Look at,
they do the maintenance of it, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll look at whatever is recommended, like the pickleball courts and stuff like that.
okay, I get what you're saying.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they would,
They would do anything else that would.
they wouldn't recommend what to remove. They would
Right,
follow the direction of the park commission, the board commission.
okay, makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Just as a point of reference, if I may.
Yes.
Because we haven't had those positions since you guys been here, the newer trustees, but the building ops person is basically over all facilities, like anything that's hard, like a building, like Civic Center, the core, the shelters, the community center, the police station, the electrical, maintenance. Am I missing anything?
Parking lot.
Parking lots, yeah, all that kind of stuff
Lights.
that the township owns, yeah, all hard kind of capital. The parks person, superintendent, always was over all the crews that take care of and maintain everything in the park, on the grounds, like park equipment, the grass, the mowing, the trees, the shreds, and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I always remember, what,
Computer support, the largest expenditures are in the communications, internet access, and this is actually, they have annual renewals of cloud VPS, Comcast internet requests, cloud storage. The big increases is in the 200 is on the last page, which is network management, change management, password management, print management, GIS software upgrades, and then the business process management which is $200,000, and that would have to come back to the board for approval.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just had two questions, and I don't know if Travis is, never mind. I just looked, he's not here. But in line item 101-266-000-857-100, that there has 170% increase, and then just a few down, and 000-977-001 is like, I almost can't say it, I'm gonna choke on it, a 395% increase, and it just seemed, I know it'll come back to the board, I just don't understand why, you know, like, I'm grateful that Doug's always turning over these rocks that we're talking about, but I also don't wanna spend all our money on, like, IT things that maybe, I just wanna know if they're necessary things that we need, and I can't speak to them, because Lord knows I am not an IT person, but I was just hoping maybe Travis could talk about them a little bit more.
I could speak to the business process management a little bit.
We've been talking about
We've been
that.
talking about this since, yeah, almost figured out
But that's
a way.
the thing where the scanning thing.
Yeah, it's where, it's more than that. What it is, we thought about that in the beginning, which is, I know since I've been clerk, we've been talking about this to get away from making copies and filing hard copies.
Sure.
But out of that came, because we first talked about it that way, is coming up with a different way to scan them and do electronic filing. But Travis, who's much more knowledgeable and stuff, said where we really need to go as an organization into what's called workflow, so that everything comes in and gets assigned based on the software to whether, it's kind of like what we do in purchasing now. Someone puts in a purchasing order, and then it goes certain places, and certain people have to sign it, and it's all done electronically. But all of our communications that we get and all of our processes, and it's a huge task.
Yeah.
Kind of as a committee, because if you remember, the board did authorize to go out for it, because this is professional services. Everybody sells the software, it's just, like 3 or 4 different softwares that you can buy, and we kind of decided which one that we wanted after a long review. But what you're really buying is the training and someone coming in, implementing it, and showing us how to do that, and that's where the expense comes in. But
Right.
kind of, one time we would do 3 or 4 departments. The latest thing, talking with Travis, was maybe we'll just do the clerk's department to start with, because that's the most amount of copying that's going on. But it's not the most amount for processing, because he really wanted to start with accounting. But 200,000 represents doing the entire township.
Yeah.
With the software, with people having it on a lot of workstations throughout. And a dream would be probably if you could actually do that in 1 year.
Yeah, thank you for that. And then just,
That's all I think.
no, I appreciate that, and I know that we've discussed that a lot. And the other piece, even if you take that whole part out, it's still like $50,000 for, to me, a layperson password thing. I wish that I don't know what password management for $6,000, like, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Madam Chair.
I thought I managed my own passwords. So I just had a question because of my own uneducatedness related to IT. Thank you.
Madam,
We don't have to budget that 200,000, but we don't have to expend it unless it comes to the board either. So there's 2 ways.
if we're giving questions for,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, maybe Travis can just, I don't know, he has some detail in here on these, but it's just 1 page, but it doesn't go in a lot, so maybe he could just take the time to maybe give us, in layman's terms, what these different things under this 395% increase. I think maybe we all, he could just give us a couple sentences
Yeah.
on each one of them, what they mean. We could ask him to do before we actually approve the budget.
Yeah, and we can do that because I actually talked to him, and some of them are annual, so it shouldn't be, right, so we can get that clarified and have him at the next meeting and get it written. So do you want us to go ahead and budget everything as presented? Is that, okay. And then,
Yeah. The only question I had on that old computer thing was, we get it a lot from the public, is there a place, or does this include part of it, that we can do more stuff online?
Madam Chair. Can I just add a question so he'll know it when he comes back? Because just for Travis, when he comes to us, he'll have this answer. I don't know what a township WAN, W-A-N, is, but it says it's an annual $65,000 a year cost to do maintenance and building. I thought we already had somebody here. It's like hiring another employee. So if he can just explain that, because he lists an alternative below to do it ourselves, which is, I thought, what we were doing all along, and what the cost of that would be and why that wouldn't be the first option to keep it in-house rather than contract it out.
Yeah, we can have him, and, like, we can have, before we adopt the budget, we're going to have the public hearing set it in the first in December, and we can have him come to the work session and explain that. That sound fair? Good question.
Madam Chair, just had one question also. WAN is an area-wide network, I know that, but it looked like he says in the third paragraph, an alternative to this would build our own network via fiber optic cabling or wireless transmissions. And I know at one point in time, we had Lightspeed come here in order, they were actually looking to build out some of the areas in the western part of the township. And fiber optic is cheaper than AT&T, Comcast, or any of the other services. So I don't know if that's why he's putting that $65,000 as estimated cost. Because I know when I did the math, if you take the 113.30 minus that 65,000, it comes out to 48,030, and it's very similar to the, well, close to the budget for that line item for last year. So I think it's off about maybe $4,000.
He did talk about fiber optic.
Yeah, so I'm
did.
assuming that's where that 65 is coming from. I don't know, but if that would be the question that I would have is basically, is it for fiber optics? And if so, is that going to decrease the cost?
And we can update the narratives, too, for the final budget to make it much clearer. And I'll have them come back to the December 4th meeting. Any other questions on that? Travis?
Is your ears burning?
Should have left on time.
Travis, some of the questions were some of the things that we had discussed about what were annual maintenance contracts and renewals versus the new fiber optic and the $200,000 for the workflow management. That everyone understands that one, but they don't, including myself, understand anything else that you listed in here.
Specifically, your computer software, line item 977001, like what those individual things mean.
Like network management software. Is that an annual cost? 977001.
977001 would be capital, or what we call CapEx, which are single expenditures.
Madam Chair.
So but it says,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just one moment. It says rebudget it because we didn't do it last year?
Correct. There's several projects that we did not get to this year that we're planning on rebudgeting for next year.
They're looking for the layman's explanation of each one of those. That's what we talked about while you were gone.
Heather, is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, just in general, Travis, you know how great I am at using my iPad and stuff, but like, what is password management? Let's go there.
Just go through all of them.
Yeah.
Network management
Help us
software.
understand, for like people that don't do IT stuff, what all these things mean. So that if someone asked me like, oh, Heather, I saw that in the budget, what does that mean? I would be like,
You voted for it, you don't know?
Yeah, so I have to know. So what is password management?
Okay. Do we want to start at the top or start?
I would start at the top with network management software if we could.
Okay, so network management software upgrades and change management software are very similar products or very similar projects that tie into each other. Essentially what they do is they monitor the network for changes. It logs the changes and helps us to document those changes and forces us to create a justification on why we made that change to the network. The goal of my department is to get better at documenting things so that should anything happen, somebody will have the information necessary to move forward. Make sense?
So is this like managing the hardware?
Some of it's managing hardware, some of it's managing software, some of it's configuring switches, firewalls. I mean, there's a lot of different devices around our network. Some of it just monitors to make sure that it's running and sends us an alert going, hey, this device is down. So we're looking to possibly upgrade some of what we currently have and then add additional services and features to that overall network management process.
Password management?
So password management is essentially a centralized database where our staff members can store their passwords in a very secure method other than, a file called password.txt. The system will help automatically log into particular websites that we utilize. It also, and despite what IT tells everybody, it does allow for users to help share their passwords to certain services. There's a lot of services out there that the township utilizes, or multiple employees will utilize, but we only get one user account to do that. So it allows us to search, maintain, track, and monitor. If you have a particular website and you're forced to change the password every 90 days and you have to share that out to 5 different people, you can do it through just this system. If you're familiar with software applications like LastPass or KeyPass or Password Safe, it's stuff like that for an enterprise environment. Make sense?
Print management?
So does that mean we'll be able to get on Google Docs?
It can always be evaluated.
What about the next one?
Love that answer.
Print management?
So print management is a project to better track what we print, who prints it, and when it's printed. The biggest thing is who's printing it. Is it black and white? Is it color? We can actually, currently we don't have the ability to break down what department is printing what all the time. So it kind of makes it difficult to determine where we should place our equipment throughout our environment. If the supervisor's office is printing a lot, then we want to make sure the devices are close to them. So
Is that a common
it's,
problem?
in some environments, yeah, it's more about tracking and accountability. If we see that a printer, what's that? I'm sorry?
To make sure someone's not stealing our colored ink?
Yeah.
Well, plus you can analyze different departments to see if there's better ways.
Correct.
Right.
You can analyze what
More
people are really
cost-effective.
doing. You can make decisions based on the data. Backup software upgrades, it's just upgrade to our existing backup software to shorten our backup window, hopefully. GIS upgrades, that is a change in the licensing model for our GIS Esri software, going to something that's a whole lot easier to manage and allows us more to use it with more users,
Okay.
allow more users to use it. And then the business process management.
We talked about that.
Okay.
We talked about that. You are welcome. Did that answer?
They did have a question about the wand,
Yeah.
like your different,
Perhaps I just asked the question. I can find it here.
WAN.
$65,000 a year to contract out building and maintenance. I thought we already did that in-house because you do list an alternative, and you said there would include some costs, but you don't list what those costs would be so that we can compare the two.
Because I didn't have it at the time. This was prepared back in July. We just recently met with another contractor to get an idea of what our options are. We haven't gotten any idea price back from that. Whatever we do with this particular project will be brought to the board with all the options that we have available and the overall cost and long-term projected costs and benefits. I added in there, based on the information that I had at the time, utilizing one of our service providers that we currently utilize to broaden our broadband connections, and that's what I went with at the time. But like I said, before we agree to anything, it's going to come back to the board for review and consideration on what our options are.
So WAN stands for?
Wide area network. Essentially, that's the network that connects our
Gotcha.
buildings together.
And fiber optics might be,
Fiber optics is an option as well. So we're comparing whether or not we want to outsource it essentially, or build our own network. Do we want to go wireless? Do we want fiber optics? What are the costs? What are the benefits?
any other questions? Okay. This is the first year we budgeted the 200,000, so that's funny. That's the largest expenditure in here, but it'll come back to the board.
Chair, I'm still really hung up on the print thing, but I wanted to say more importantly, thank you for coming and speaking about those.
And we'll put better narratives in there to help
Yeah, with those
us
all,
and the public.
Madam Chair, those will all come back too. Like the print management, whoever we go with to do that'll come back.
That might not, because it's under 7,500. Well, if there's a contract, yeah.
If there's a contract, I'm assuming, yeah. But it's really more or less a one-time purchase type product.
Yeah. Like,
It's a bolt-on.
I don't mean to go off on a tangent about printing paper, but like, on a scale from 1 to 10, how big of a problem is that in our township?
We don't know.
Don't know, don't measure it.
But like, do people complain about it? Like, are people downstairs like, I gotta walk all the way upstairs to use the printer? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Ever since
is?
we took their printers off their desks, they complain about having to get up
Yeah,
to
no, that's
get to
okay.
it.
That's
But,
what I wanted to know. I wanted to know if it's really an issue.
we do get comments,
Okay.
and we do get asked, can we put a device here? I'm like, well, there's one right there. And the comment always is, well, we print more. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't have.
Yeah, and then I'm sorry, this is my last piece, but I hope that when we do that, we talk to the people who have a problem with it too, about where, like, I see you shaking your head, Tammy, like, where does Tammy want the dang printer? And put it there.
It just becomes a problem.
Yeah.
For instance, we share a printer with assessing,
Oh,
so,
they'll be in the middle of a 500 print document, yeah.
I'm printing budgets, and somebody comes to the counter that they have to print out something for.
Yeah,
So if the building department, if their printers, usually, I've got a resident
Yeah.
sitting there waiting while my budgets are finishing, or, there becomes a backup.
Sure.
And the purchasing person sits in our department, she prints a lot, for purchasing,
Yeah.
purchase orders and whatever. So it just becomes an issue with that. So a lot of times I'll send the budgets downstairs to the other printer that's faster, but then that causes a problem.
For the clerk's office.
The residential services department who's printing something, so it does become a
okay,
problem.
thank you.
Probably just use that money for that software, just get another printer. We don't need to do research.
Well, we budgeted for another printer.
Thank you. It's
Okay.
really helpful to hear that, Tammy.
Let's move on.
267 is, in 267, I don't, this is the general services. We did budget for a copier for the second floor. And we do think that the repeater, we think it'll be completed this year, which is for equipment, cellular repeater. They're in the process of doing it. We hope it'll be completed in 2018. So then people can get cell phone access in the building as well as computer access. Planning is kind of the same. there any questions on the planning department? We got to get to some of the other funds. Planning commission. Zoning Board of Appeals. On highways and streets, we have our numbers for the drain costs. Lift stations, we never know what this number is going to be. If one breaks down, then we have to repair it. In road construction, we only budgeted $100,000. It comes back to the board every year once we meet with the road commission, so we didn't. We do have a new budget for economic development. We only have $500 in miscellaneous as far as like printed materials to take to places. We don't have, you know, I don't think it is. So, but I don't know, it's our first year having an economic development department, so we're trying to figure out what.
Did we budget like for marketing stuff?
Only $500 under miscellaneous. Marketing is kind of separate than economic development, but in order to have something to give out, Sarah Jo is in the process of doing a lot of things on the web and updating the website so that people can go to that area. But if she's going to, you know, E-Course or Michigan Avenue or anywhere, there's nothing really to give out. So that's really not budgeted.
Like when she goes to that retail conference with
Can you? Yeah.
She doesn't have
There's
anything to
no,
go and show our demographics or something hard, like a packet.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, it's following up on what Clerk Rowe said. Some of the printing probably would include exactly what she said, maybe a portfolio of information about Ypsilanti Township, and so I'm assuming that would be put inside of marketing. But if there's not a budget for it, then I don't know. I mean, can she?
And we do have publishing in general services that we could use if we had to. You know, I just didn't. This is the first year of it. I'm not sure how much we should budget, and if it's anything large, we'd have to bring it back here anyway.
Okay.
I mean, right?
Yep.
Right now, her focus is E-Course Road redevelopment and Michigan Avenue redevelopment and getting the website up. So it's really not having printed materials, but if she needs some, we could look at putting it in publishing until we can get an idea. Residential services. This is where half of the residential services director salary. Is that right? Any questions? I mean. That hasn't changed. Parks and Grounds, we did put in a Parks Operations Director as discussed. Restoring that position. We also increased the amount we did for seasonal employees for the parks and for Ford Lake Park and the gate part, Ford Lake gate staff. We were doing a look back at previous years. Giovanna and I were, and we really cut that budget substantially in 2008. And you can tell this year we spent more, and I think you can see that in the parks. You can see it in the parks. So we also, said that we would hire people, our youth employment, so it could be part of that.
It's come up on, I'm trying to think of where exactly in the whole planning process, people have said, either at the hearing, I heard it several times, if you're not going to take care of your parks, then you need to, like residents have said that. If you're going to have parks, take care of them. If not, maybe you need to get rid of some of them. So I think it's important, because I don't want to get rid of the parks.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just had a really quick question. And I know that the Park Commission discusses this, of course, but something I heard at one of our meetings was about, like, why we charge for some parks and not for others.
Because they're gated? The gated-
Yeah, but so,
The amenities, supposedly.
yeah, but so, like, I'm thinking of the one, North Bay Park. North Bay? Yeah. It gets by the park and ride, and we charge people to go
Not
in.
at the
So
park
half
and
the time
ride.
when you go in there, like, the parking lot's full, but then it fills up the park and ride, because, like, you can literally walk
They
in
walk.
for free. So I just would be interested to know, like, the revenues from that, and if it's really substantial, or if it would be a better resource for our township members and other communities to be able to access our parks for free. You know, I mean, and it is like, you could take that and talk about health and wellness of all different income levels too. You know, if you have to charge a gate entrance, you're really kind of, you know, not allowing other people who maybe can't afford to do something like that, the access to our beautiful parks. So I would just like to look into that in the future and see if we could maybe eliminate those gate fees.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be able to say that without knowing exactly how much
Data.
we profit from the gate fees.
Well,
I don't think
it's
is it
in
there?
230, yeah,
230?
recreation, but we'll get there.
Okay.
But that has the revenue
Where it is.
for it, and, the Ford Lake, the gate revenue is in recreation 230.
Because they handle all the staff and everything,
Oh, right.
the way it's administered.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
kind of.
I'm not sure if I agree with that,
I
Heather,
didn't say that exactly right.
but,
Yeah, I didn't say that right.
no, I mean, I'm not sure if I agree with the
Not
premise that
paying.
it should be free.
No, if I can say, if I can,
Well, and I would want to see the numbers more, but I do, just as a general principle, think that our parks should be free for all.
Seniors are free.
Well, what about like children?
Somebody told me they should, someone was telling me they use them all the time, we should charge them at least $1.
Well, like,
I've had people tell me
No,
that.
I hear that, I for sure do, but like, what if I'm a single mom and I want to take my kids
No,
out
I'm
to the
talking about
park?
seniors, yeah.
You know, so it's just like, and I know that most of the people on this board and here tonight, like, we all have the ability to pay $5, $10, or heck, I love going to Jungle Java, don't even, ask how much I spend there, but not everyone in our community has that ability. And I see that, a lot of our lower income moms and families that come through our hospital come from the Ypsilanti family practice, which is, right in the city. So a lot of them live in the township.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Okay. As a person that's been on the Park Commission, and this was debated with the previous Park Commission that I was on, the fee, which I believe is $3 to get inside of parks, that is actually to help maintain the parks. And also, some of that money goes back into paying some of the staff that actually works in the parks. Of
course it is.
So, yeah, and it is $3. I
No,
think
I
you
mean,
can get
but,
it,
like,
yeah.
The total for like a year.
I believe if I have it correct, wasn't it 20? Is it
10 or
24?
15.
Okay, something like that. Okay.
It's more for non-residents, right?
Yeah, that could be the non-residential price.
I think it's like
Yeah,
But the park commission, sets that every year.
yeah. So, I mean, I'm not saying, I think that's a matter for the Park Commission to discuss, because they actually are the ones who have that policy. And if there was to be some type of change, it would come, well, actually, no, that wouldn't, come back to the board. So it would actually be in the Park Commission's, repertoire.
I always think we need to charge it more of them, especially the Fort Heritage. People, lots of outsiders come in there for all the,
There's no charge here.
there's no charge.
No charge
It's
for
probably
Fort
the
Heritage.
highest use one.
So, can we move on? Yes. Could you please go to the microphone, ma'am?
I'm saying they have all those huge soccer games and all that. And I can bet you that we pay when we go other places.
Man, I hear you, but like, that's just, it's my personal opinion that is like just not a good principle to have. Like, we have families with young children who want to go to parks for free.
It's $10.
It's like, no, but $10 to you is
Robin?
nothing, and
But
that's
they-
wonderful, but it is a lot of money to other people. That's like half a can of formula. That's like 2 packs of diapers. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
Okay.
They can go to Heritage, there's a beautiful play
They
structure
could,
there.
but what if they don't live over?
They can-
I'm just saying,
Apple Ridge has some newer equipment over there, there's basketball courts, there's walk, there are many parks that we have stuff in that you don't have to
Right.
pay for.
I hear you.
The yearly cost for a resident is $10 a year.
Thank you.
And a lot of people park and walk in.
it's a,
They don't.
At some
Like they
of them,
can,
sure.
they go to the, even if they want to go.
thank you. So it's $10 a year, but it's a principle. Like, do we really need $10 a year from, I'm just saying, it's a philosophy, and I believe strongly that we shouldn't be charging for our parks. But I appreciate the discussion, and I'm okay with being the only person that feels that way.
Well, it's a park commission discussion, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but we could
That's-
always, we're talking about our budget, and it is like related
Like a
to
poverty
a
exemption.
budget question.
So we could do like a poverty exemption like we do with water. Whatever.
Parks and grounds, stormwater management, are there any questions on? Me neither.
I'm good.
Can we go to some of the, is,
Good job on the budget. It's easy to understand. No question.
well, I did make an error on capital outlay. I did not rebudget on page 116 in capital outlay, 101,970. I didn't, it says we rebudgeted the 203,000, but I did not.
So will you be doing that, or?
Yeah, I would like to rebudget it because we plan on having it done, and it's bid out, the bid has been awarded, but they haven't done it yet. So that was an error. And,
The only thing I had under capital outlay, and it's probably.
970?
Yeah, it's probably more of a policy decision, but I know that the old survey that we did, and my understanding is the new survey that we've done through the master plan process, is that the number one thing that people really want is bike paths and sidewalks. And I was thinking, we always budget every year for roads, and I didn't know if there's a place, if there's enough funding to do maybe $150,000, $200,000. So I know it's not very much. It's only going to lay down a quarter or half a mile. And on the other discussion that's come up, it's some of the master plan things, so maybe we, it could be a policy decisions later, is folks have even talked about, they want them bad enough that why don't we ask the voters if they want them bad enough that they would vote for a mill for 10 years or something, then we can lay down $10 million. Because anyways, I think that it was number one 10 years ago, and talking to all the folks on Ben and all those, and we're going to get the survey results at the December 4th meeting. This work session was too long, that there's just a lot of support and interest in that whole bike path sidewalks. So anyway, sorry.
We did budget 50,000, and this is for the repair.
Yeah, and
Because
which
we're
we
trying to
need,
get the
right.
repairs
Yeah,
done
first.
before we, but.
That's first, that's a priority, obviously, yeah.
Ms. Kaiser?
Arloa Kaiser, 1421 Melvin Street. It seems to me that everybody wants bike paths, but I don't know. I don't see that many people riding bicycles. I mean, you see people walking in there. You see the motorized vehicles in there, not wheelchairs, but whatever they call their little, whatchamacallits, sometimes lawnmowers. What about the drivers? It seems that the drivers have no rights anymore. It's the people who are walking, the people who are riding bicycles. Walkers walk where there aren't any paths or whatever.
Right.
Why are they having such a special deal, and drivers are getting basically the screws put to them? And anymore, it seems like it's a few people who want bicycle paths. Can we not spend our money on something better than bicycle paths?
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser.
In the same way with the uniforms or the apparel, I don't think the township should pay for that.
We do pay for several departments that have apparel. On BSNR 2, or 212, Stan, this is the one where we're transferring into the golf course and recreation that you wanted to discuss.
I'm sorry, I can wait till we get to those. I know I'm not the only one that has a concern.
Well, no, but I mean, this is the time
We're there now, right?
to BSNR 2, so you want to do that after we do recreation and golf course?
Sure.
Because part of it is, we did budget 50,000 more for sidewalk repairs in order to get that taken care of. There's a lot of sidewalks that need to be repaired too. We budgeted contribution to the golf course, $213,422. Most of the increase is due to the addition of a full-time employee. We did budget $145,960 for park improvements, which is to replace the existing equipment based on the master plan. And I'm not sure, so you want to wait to talk about, because it's in this one, but
I just have a concern I've voiced before. If you add those two together, we are supplementing two departments with $715,000 plus a year. And at some point, we, as 7 board members, need to have a open, honest discussion how much longer we can keep doing that.
okay. Okay. Environmental services. I don't know if there's any questions on this.
Should we find a
Madam
new?
Chair.
Sorry.
Yes.
Never mind, actually. Thank you. Sorry.
Environmental services are garbage, rubbish, recycling.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I have to
Yes.
ask this question after, if it's okay. And I know we are not at that point yet, but I would like to see if there has been, and I think it is going to be coming up, any increase in revenue to the golf course in particularly, with the noted improvements. So that's, maybe we'll get to some of Stan's question about the $715,000. And I know that's coming up later in the discussion, so I'm kind of highlighting that. As for recreation, I know that's also going to be a discussion that's later in the discussion. So I'll be interested in asking some questions in regards to that also, so.
Okay. 226, which is environmental services. Any questions on?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I noticed the recycling disposal has the description there, an explanation, and the last few words there, this might triple. Where are we as a county? I know you've probably had meetings as far as recycling. Has there been any progress as far as where we're at with recycling?
There's been several meetings. They hope to bring something forwarded in order to bid out recycling, but the issue is the end product. There is no market for end product.
Okay.
We also know that there was discussion, it might happen in lame duck, a large increase on tipping fees. So if that happens, that will affect us even more. So a lot of them is kind of unknown. Hopefully the market will turn around, and that'll be coming back to the board in 2019. I know they have a proposed agreement to work together that will have to come back to this board. But there's no answer because there's no end product. And until creative minds get together and figure out what else to use recycling for, it's an issue. It's not only here, other counties and other states, so. China ceased taking the recyclables if they had it used to be a 5% contamination, and now it's 0.05%, and no one can meet that. So all the toys that were like from China was using the plastics and stuff that were coming from here. So I don't know the answer to it, to be honest. I know it's an issue, it's a good question, and hopefully we can all participate in trying to find a solution with Evan Pratt leading it.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we'll keep you updated as it comes. We did budget for a chipper, a third chipper out of this to have as a backup when one of them goes down. And that will come back to the board, of course. And the revenue over expenditure, the last page of the general fund explains, just gives an overview of where we're at. We have a $242,000 to the good. That's this current presentation. We do have to put in the $200,000 back into rebudgeting the roof. So that'll take away from that. We didn't rebudget the roof.
Are you on environmental, or did you jump back to?
I'm on the last page. We're on the last page.
Oh, the last page.
Yeah. And there's a gap of revenue and expenditure of $242,000 to the good.
Yes.
Am I saying that?
Are you on general service, general fund?
General fund, the last page on general fund.
Okay.
That's a question Karen was asking.
We kind of jumped back. So.
It's just the very last page of general fund, Joe.
That we were on environmental services, so
Yeah, we got through that.
I was confused, so, sorry. Okay. But you went back. Okay. All right, that is true. $205,000 to the good, but we have to budget back.
Right.
I'm with you now.
So we're on recreation now? Angie's here to answer any questions. So the Ford Lake gate fees and the Ford Lake shelter rent is the questions you were asking. Well, yes, for the gate fees, Heather. That is 641001. So that's where the revenue is. This was a rainy year, so we didn't meet budget as we thought we would, but then with the pickleball courts and the improvements to all the new equipment that's been put, we hope to run out to shelters more too. And I would like to say that last year, the transfer request was for $507,000. This year, it's lower to $501,000 from BSNR too. So at least we're heading in the right direction, Stan. So any questions? We can go over it.
Madam Chair, I know that last year when we were doing our budget, we talked about doing like a survey or somehow figuring out which parts of our townships are not familiar with all of the services we offer or all the classes we have. And I don't think, like, we didn't do anything really. Like, I think it was just an idea, and then, I don't know, Angie, if you've thought any more about something like that, or like doing a survey to see like what communities in our township, like, you know, does the north side of 94 not have any idea about our recreation department, or like is the south side the part that doesn't know about our recreation department? You remember talking about that last year?
I remember us talking something about that. We did do a survey with our 50 and Beyond program, but nothing that was real general.
Okay.
But I think some of that may be answered in the park master plan.
Sure, yeah.
Because they did that survey, so we may see some results there.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, through you to trustee Rowe. I believe that a lot of residents know about the services, but there's so many other entities that offer services now that it's kind of siphoning from our residents and services we offer. Lincoln has really ramped up the services they offer, so it's kind of taken a lot from the southern part of the township.
YMCA.
YMCA offers it at a lot of the schools now. They advertise in the schools, they're sending it home with the students.
And a Groupon, I felt like I was cheating on the township.
So I think that's probably the biggest
Yeah.
issue there. But I do have a question, Angie. Where would you say the loss of revenue, is it mainly that, what I just mentioned, or is there any other areas that where we could probably do better at?
I believe the majority of it is exactly what you said. So many competing entities with the Y Center, they're able to offer their programs highly subsidized, you know, whereas that's why we stopped doing day camps. Our day camp was $150 a week. They would offer it for $40, the Y Center did, for 4 weeks of camp. So some of those same programs we're competing with, even some of our basketball and soccer and stuff is still popular, but then when you have people going to the travel teams more, we lose revenue that way as well. I think some of it is a matter of choice of what they want, say comparing a Jonathan Apple to a Marigold or what have you. They're looking for something else when they go with the travel league versus our recreation leagues.
Gotcha.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And just connecting this whole conversation is I will say, and I don't know if could be because of what Trustee Wilson said, it's just like easier to sign your kids up through school programs or stuff, but I still, like our website for recreation is, I think, incredibly hard to use, and I'm a millennial, you know, like it's just hard to, like even when we do our trunk or treat, like to sign up for that takes like 6,000 steps, and I'm a really committed person to doing that. So I just, broadly speaking, in the next year, I would really love to see some improvements around that.
Okay, if you could check that again too and let me know if it's still like that, because I know Becky did make some improvements where you could just do one click to get to certain things, but if that's still not working, we can continually ask for changes there as well.
Madam Chair.
Monica?
I'm going to, I have a couple of questions to ask. Okay, so I'm looking at the budget, and I know some of this has been because of the fact people move, but we have people coming back in, which is really good. Because at one point in time, we were down to about, if I want to say in the township, somewhere around like 51,000, and it's estimated that we have 56,000 residents right now. So, and I know there's competing interests with other programs. So here's my question. When have we, as, I guess you could say, a recreation department, took a comprehensive look in regards to what programs that we offer versus what programs the community actually want? And what I'm saying about that is that it could be that some of the programs that we offer are not what the community want, right? And then the second part of it is programs that we offer that the community wants that could actually bring in higher revenue. Does that make sense? I hope that whole question is making sense. Because for instance, I'm looking at dance, and like in 2016, and that is line item 362000, we brought in about $57,000 worth of activity. We're looking at 2018, that number has went down to about 42,532. So that's over a course of 2 years. So my question would be with that, just looking at it, is the the categories of dance that is actually offered through our township right now, is that categories of dance that the community want? Or should we tailor things, you know? Right, or times, or days, or something of that nature. And then the other, okay, so it was another one on here too. Build-in rental, right? Okay, so in build-in / fill rental. In 2016, that's line item 369000. It was like almost 50,000, 49,978. In 2018, it's 37,763. And I know we're competing against other rental places, but when you look at costs, our costs on building rental, are very competitive.
People just don't know about it.
Right, and so my question is, do people know that this is even available? I mean, or how well do they know? Yeah.
I think part of it, like, I think you're right.
Clerk Rowe.
Yeah, sorry. I think part of it's like a lot of, based on the demographics of the township and stuff, and I know that people move here and they have no idea that that's available, and they're the ones, a lot of those are the ones who have the young kids and would love to have a party outside of their house and stuff too. So I don't know if that's just a marketing thing, but, you know, dance and dances and youth sports are the two things that we actually make money on. So I didn't know if there's ways to expand
Dance isn't, the next is in December. When's the dance competition?
Dance will start, we're going through December, and then they pay again for January, the next set of classes in January. So it's split into 2 semesters, if you will.
They are down then this year.
They're down a little bit this year, and we do look at the type dances that we offer, the type classes, and we'll reevaluate it again. Say, last year we did a class on a Friday. This time we didn't do Friday. We did more classes on Saturday. We didn't do Wednesday this time, but we did combo classes instead of single classes. So like you were saying, we are looking at it to see, well, do parents prefer to have a single class over a combo class? So we will be looking at those kind of things to see if maybe that's not what they want. And we do ask those dance parents at the end of the year, you know, what classes were popular? Would you want to see this type class again?
Do we do exit surveys? Like when people take, like dance would be a great place to do it. So like when they get ready to end their dance program, right? That they can actually evaluate what they thought about it. Because, I mean, I think when when you're losing, when there's a loss of almost, and I'm just looking at the raw numbers, about $14,000 in over 2 years in dance, something has to be an issue there. Because I know dance is still popular with young families. And so my question is, what is the issue? And the same thing with, building rental. You know, and the website, I'm sorry, and then I'll be quiet. The website, that is still not great. A family should be able to go on the website, look, see what it is that they're thinking about signing up for, make 2 clicks, and be able to pay. And our website is very confusing. And I don't know how else to say it. It is. It's very confusing. Yeah. And I could see, if it's me, and if I can't get it done within 4 minutes, I'm leaving, I'm going somewhere else. And I'm going to go somewhere else that has an easier website that I can navigate and get what I need to have signed up for and done. So those are my comments.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just on the room rental thing too, I think a lot of that could play into like aesthetics too. Like people, if they want to have like a baby shower, maybe don't want to go to like a community room with like bookshelves with DVDs and VHS videos on them, and just like improving the aesthetics of our community center, because it's a wonderful building, it's in a good place, but like just thinking about why would someone choose, I don't know, some venue at their, like the clubhouse at their condo place instead of our community center. And I think that if you just looked at them two face to face, the aesthetics is kind of one of the big deals.
That has come up many times. People have asked, well, somebody asked the other day, can you move the bookshelves out of the room? But Those are.
Yeah, and I mean, that's
tacked
like
to the
one little
wall.
thing I'm picking at, but like just the whole thing, like paint it, make it look more modern and not so loved. Or dated. I'm gonna go with loved. You know? Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Angie, I did want to say that the Nerf Wars, that was really good. My 10-year-old, he loved it. And I see there was a lot of participation, and I see that you guys are doing another one in January. And that was really innovative. I know maybe only Celine has done it maybe. And so when you picked that up, that was a great idea.
And for adults,
Okay,
I
we'll,
seriously want to do that.
It might
we'll
be
look
fun,
at that
yeah.
next. And that is something that we asked the parents, what would you want to see different? There were some things with that one that we didn't get to, like playing some of the games we said we would play because the kids were just having fun the way they were doing it. But we did listen. We're going to offer it again, like you said, in January, probably March as well. And then we'll incorporate some of the feedback that we got from parents from the first Nerf Wars. So, thank you.
I just had a comment. Didn't know how much I think it does. People tell me people don't read anymore. My son says it all the time. But how much, not having the mailing, because we stopped that around that year, right? Our last
16.
So our last big year is when we used to do time. So maybe it's time, and I'm not saying to do it every time, but maybe it's time just to do, your next big push, and let's do a township-wide mailing, because we've got a lot of new residents moving in. Or maybe it's better or maybe we just do, postcards for dance, or just go back to it, because I know people have moved in our township, they have no idea that we exist.
Madam Chair, this is the last thing, I'm sorry. I was just doing a little test to see, and I actually had a resident reach out to me. They were trying to rent out, like, the soccer field or something, or they were trying to register for a soccer, whatever, group, and they were having a lot of trouble doing it. And then one of the phone numbers on the website didn't work or something, but I just went on and Googled Ypsilanti Township Recreation, and about 6 different clicks later, like literally, I went to the first site, the second site, third site. Now I'm finally to the login, and then I see I have a six-step requirement to how to log in and create account. So just from me right now, trying to look at how to log into something is like, what? Can I just get the real website?
You do it there, try it from your phone, it's probably
6 times worse. So, I mean, I appreciate the improvements that you guys have tried to make, but I don't think that it's, if I was a mom, I am a mom, I would just be out. I can't, I don't.
That's a rec-ware, isn't it? Isn't that a recreation program for registering?
The bad one.
It is, RecTrack is the software, but I could have Becky look at it and see if there's anything that she can do to make changes to the steps that we go through.
Tell her especially
get
on
to it.
phones, because that's what everybody's using now.
Phones.
A lot of stuff people are using it's not mobile
Friendly.
It
Yeah.
doesn't go to,
Yeah, and then
it doesn't look the same.
I go to one of them and then I get an error and it doesn't even work. This isn't, it's really frustrating to me when I try to look on our website and then I get errors. And I know I've talked to Becky about some things before like that, but come on.
Madam Chair, I have to ask, when was the last time that software has been updated? When was it bought?
We did an upgrade about a year ago.
When was it
Year
bought?
and a half
In other words,
ago.
how old is the software?
RecTrack has been there a while.
So,
Yeah, I was there in
everybody's using?
2010, we
there.
had RecTrack.
Is it what everybody still uses?
Yes.
Filled in there?
Yes, it's still the most popular one.
If I could answer your question, Monica, because I talked to Becky and Travis about that.
Heather, we get you talking to the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I talked to Becky and Travis about the software, and if I'm recalling our conversation right, there was another program that you could use, but to them financially it made more sense to do some add-ons rather than doing a whole new system and training everyone else how to use that. So it was a little bit of logistics, so they acknowledged that the program's not the greatest, so they just tried to do all the improvements that were possible with the software versus totally nixing it, getting a new software that would cost more money, and then also incorporating all the training around it. That was our last conversation about it.
Madam Chair, but here's the comeback on that, and I'm just going to. If we're losing money because of the fact that people cannot register for the site in the first place, because they're having difficulty registering for the site, and if the upgrades to the software is not compatible in order to work in 2018's times in regards to registering for programs and having it done within 5 to 10 minutes, then something has to change. I mean, something has to change because.
We can review that.
Yeah, it would have to be reviewed.
I mean, we can, we can look at that and have Travis look at that and make recommendations, or we can go to a whole new software. That's not in this budget, but we can note that, it's requested that we look at updating it. But as far as the budget that's proposed before us, are there any questions or comments? No?
Can we budget for to do some more mailings, or do we have enough inflation, you think?
There's not enough dollars in this budget to do that. So, I mean, we would increase the amount that came from BSNR.
Yeah, I would think that would help, just, especially with all the new stuff that's in. Maybe after we make sure that that's working, the website, to figure out a way that we can get the information out that we exist.
Okay. And we'll try to address the software issue. I know you can't do it with this budget, but we can bring it back. I mean, maybe if it's to get a new one, a whole new system, I don't know. I'm not sure if that'll solve the issue of participation, but it would make it easier, no matter, regardless. Any other comments? No? We're going to go to 14B Court. Thanks, Angie. Mark is here to go over the budget. Are there any questions on it, or how do you want to? I'm a little bit concerned about the revenue for 14B court costs, but we won't know until the end of the year, and it'll be updated.
I ran a report through year-to-date October comparing 2017 to 2018, and it comes down to traffic citations. We're down last year through October, we were at 8,527 filed, and now we're at 6,573, so it's a difference of 2,000 traffic citations filed with the court.
Is drunk driving in that as well?
That is
a traffic citation?
That's all traffic offenses. Drunk driving is holding steady. There's two categories for drunk driving. One's filed under township ordinance, the other is filed under state law. So that reflects the difference between basically a drunk driving first offense and second offense. So in 2018, the second offense charges, or state filed charges, because it could be first offenses still, are up 122 versus 94. And the township, the ordinance citations, which will all be first offenses, are at 96 last year versus 97. So they're about the same. There's not a very large difference between the two once you add them together. What we're talking about is tickets, driving with suspended license, speeding, failed to yield, defective equipment, all those different types of things. That's what we're talking about here. That's the difference.
So people are driving safer, we think?
That could be. That could be. I know the sheriff's department's had some people off the road, and they've been going through some hirings and things like that, and they've made some changes as to who's doing enforcement on the roads. So I think that may be part of it, but that's.
It's the number one neighborhood concern is speeding, and we do have 3 deputies that are in those positions. I know a lot of people who've had a ticket that had not had a ticket in the past. So I'm surprised that they're, Tammy being one, my brother being another, my daughter being one. But, so maybe,
So the sheriff's department's out there.
yeah, they're out there, and I believe they're writing tickets. I could be wrong, but, and they were violating the law. So it was right to do that. It's hard to judge tickets.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, it's just,
But that's, I mean, you ask about revenue, and that's where it ties back to.
but why do you think it's going up to 575? That was the only part I didn't get. Like, there's an increase of 575, and we're not making it.
Yeah, we're not
We've
making,
never made 575, so that was my only.
Well, it's, based on a trend going back, and beyond, we've been moving up slowly, I think, as we've gone along. And I talked to Mike Radzik about this. I mean, one year doesn't make a trend as far as things going back down.
I agree.
So, he and I discussed that and thought we would hold with this number. I mean, certainly if it bears out that we're not getting the numbers back again, then we can address that down the road. But, we don't think this is the beginning of a downward trend in general. I think, there's been a number of hirings. There's people back on the road that were off the road. So I think we're going to see some improvements.
I know your online programs are,
We've rolled out a few different, a few new
That's
online problem-solving initiatives that have helped, and we need to just publicize those more, get more word out on those for people to utilize them. But yeah, we have one that we've been using consistently for a couple of years now that's been very successful, and the others that we've picked up in the last year are starting to get some traction, and we'll see continued better use of those as we go along.
Madam Chair.
Treasurer Doe.
Yeah, Mark, I know I was fortunate enough to be in Van Buren a few weeks ago, and I got a ticket for rolling through a stop sign. And I rolled through it, but the officer wrote it for impeding traffic. He put down, I ran a stop sign.
Right.
But he wrote it for impeding, and he said, I'm going to give you a break because it's I guess it's 3 points for a stop sign. I was surprised. So that was $180. The question I got, is there a difference of the funding based on what he did for that Van Buren?
That's a ticket, so, right?
I mean, as far as where the money goes, you mean?
Yeah.
No, that type of a ticket would have the same splits as any other ticket would have.
Still has the same, because I know they used to talk about impeding, more of it went to the local.
Parking would be a difference, not impeding. Impeding still splits between the state and local unit of government. Parking is more money comes to the local unit of government.
So if we wrote a lot of fire lane parking, it would help us, huh?
Some municipalities do double parking on the freeway, for example, and charge a couple $100 for that.
Double parking on a freeway?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten that one.
So it does happen.
Instead of doing the speed, they said they were giving me a break.
Oh.
Gave me the double parking.
What'd you do?
Pay the double.
He was
parking.
speeding, but he got a ticket
Now
for
it's no
double
points for
parking.
the speeding. So
Well, maybe we ought to work on double parking.
But that still goes back into the tickets, right? That, it still goes into
Well,
the
it is-
14B court costs, is that?
It would have a different revenue split. I mean, right now, every speeding citation, for example, splits between the local unit and the state. The split with a parking ticket is tilted more towards the local unit than the state. So there's,
Oh,
We need to go write more tickets, Mark.
we need more parking tickets.
All right.
I think this is just, it's really hard to determine.
Oh, it's a-
I
yeah.
think, and I think it'll be closer, because this is October 31st numbers as opposed to, we have all of November. And we'll have the numbers in, do you have the numbers for November? You don't?
no.
Right.
What I ran was just through the end of October was the last month we
Right,
had.
so we'll have better numbers, I think, at the next.
My question, since the tickets are down, but the caseload is up, right, in terms of, because I know our prosecution costs are up. So I was just trying to, my ignorance, I don't really understand that.
So misdemeanor filings,
Is that what takes more?
no, those are through October again, for ordinance misdemeanors, which would be Township is 219 versus 257, 219 this year, 257 last year. That's out the drunk drivings, of course. So, I mean, as far as misdemeanors other than driving offenses, the total combined misdemeanors and felonies, non-driving offenses through October 2018 is 1,037. Through 2017, last year, we were at 1,002. So it's up some. There's a grand total amongst that class of cases. But, you know, it's 35 cases altogether. And that just may be a matter of, you know, things getting filed 2 weeks earlier, 2 weeks later.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mark, I just have a quick question,
Yes, sir.
and maybe I'm way off base, but there's been articles in the papers this week about a case going to the Michigan Supreme Court on court costs and how that might be an unconstitutional tax. And
Yep.
if that's eliminated, how's that going to affect our court and how much revenue could be lost?
The legislature will have to fix, state legislature will have to fix that.
Well, he's asking how
Well,
much.
how much
I mean,
do we get
it's-
right now on court costs is what I'm asking.
That's everything. I mean, it's essentially, I mean, that's how we're funded. It would be a huge change, and there would have to be a legislative fix to it.
What type of legislative fix are you talking about then?
The state would have to fund
The state would then have to fund the courts?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you would know better than I, what's the likelihood that's going to win?
I don't know. I mean,
The state's not kept you guys abreast of what's going on, so you can prepare for next year?
No, I mean, it's all up in the air as to what, you know, I mean, the Supreme Court heard arguments on it the other day. It's going to take them a couple of months to make a decision.
Oh, okay, that's,
And, you know, then once that happens, everybody will have to be in a position to react at that point in time.
so it's not something that looks like it's going to be an immediate decision?
No.
Okay.
No, like any other case, I mean, there's no, it's not on an expedited docket or anything like that.
Oh, okay, that's why I was asking, because if we approve this budget and then all of a sudden in February, there's no money, so you think it'll be, maybe take throughout most of next year?
Well, it'll be a few months out before we know
Okay.
anything. Yeah, I mean, you know, but we're getting into reading tea leaves. I have, you know, no idea where that's going to shake out.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? I know Mr. Morocco is here. Did you want him, you don't need him to explain anything, do you?
I don't have any questions for now, unless.
For the traffic tickets?
I mean, you know, as I said, you know.
Not at full compliance.
Did you address where you are with?
As far as Mike Morocco doing.
Hello, Mike.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm doing good.
So they're asking about where my fines and things are, and all our traffic enforcement is down about 2,000 cases through October.
Traffic only?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We ran into, like the rest of the police industry, we've run into some significant staffing issues. We've had resignations, we've had retirements, we've had injuries that have dropped us down from a staffing position of 32 patrol officers, take out the neighborhood watch, and we're down to 30 that would specifically be on the road, answering calls, writing citations, that type of thing. And we're down to about 23 as we speak. One and two of those positions, we had a resignation and an injury that were positioned specific to traffic, that's their designated assignment. So what we were doing is trying to backfill those two positions out of what we had, and sometimes we couldn't. So that's where we stand. However, we have currently 13 new hires. Of those, they're going to be coming, we should be filling our vacancies in Ypsilanti Township, which should impact that. We also we've made some changes as far as we had Doug McMullen, who was with us for about 7 years, he's known throughout the state as an expert. What was happening is for a long time, Doug was able to work a lot of cases in Ypsilanti Township. However, as two other traffic members who were assigned to secondary road patrol throughout the entire county, as they retired, Doug's expertise was used in basically every significant crash within the county, which pulled him away from Ypsilanti Township. Last month, we ended up taking Doug and making him a countywide resource and moving the person who was previously in countywide into Ypsilanti Township, because Doug is being used by Northfield, by Ann Arbor, by everybody else in the county in fatal crashes, significant crashes where you've got injuries that are putting people, into life-threatening situations. So his expertise was being used elsewhere. So as we kind of had a little bit of a perfect storm go on with the retirements and the resignations and whatnot and injuries. So by moving Doug, we've made an adjustment to that. We should be seeing Corporal Ballard. His impact, we're starting to see it already. That'll be driven up. And then at the beginning of January 1, we'll have our traffic positions filled permanently again, which we should see that go up. As far as the additional caseload that we're talking about, I can tell you that some of the strategies that we're working together have driven down, and crime overall throughout the country is down, not 20%, and some of the things that we're doing collaboratively with the Michigan Department of Corrections as far as following up on parolees and doing compliance checks and things like that, as well as the civil padlock work that we're doing, is we're moving some of the crime stats that used to be there by paying specific attention to the heavy generators of our criminal cases. We're reducing them even further. And I would say we're probably, as opposed to a crime reduction across the board of 2 or 3%, I would say we're probably at 7, 8%, 9%. You can see in the statistics that we put out that are posted through the monthlies or the annual reporting data, our robberies are half of what they used to be. Our home invasions are half of what they used to be. And those all come from these specific segments of our society that I think we're doing a pretty good job of addressing. So I think there's your two pieces that I would see that would create where we stand today. The traffic, and as you know, over the last few years, our traffic has been way far and above what it was 5 or 6 years ago. I think from 2015 to last year, we quadrupled the number of OWIs we had in the township. So our numbers were really outstanding. They've come down a bit. We're going to get back to outstanding. Last year, I think we were 3rd in the state for OWIs out of this township, not countywide. This township was, I think Michigan State Police beat us and Oakland County Sheriff. But so we're still in the running. We can do better. We're going to do better. And I think some of the strategies are working too. So it's kind of what I have. Any specific questions?
No, but I do understand the recruitment effort. We've talked about it extensively.
Absolutely.
It's very, very hard to recruit people at the hours and current salary that you're, so
Yes.
they're paying people to move.
Yes,
moving
we've increased our efforts to recruit, retain. I can tell you last month, we were out, we've done it a couple times, we sent a recruiting team to Fort Knox, which is where, like all the Army people who are mustering out, we go there and recruit there. We'll do interviews there, take applications there. We're doing all the local academies. We're doing recruiting visits. We've gotten people actually hired out of Lake State, which is up by like the Sioux, way up there. So we have 10 new hires. We're anticipating 5 more by the end of 2018. But we still have to do another 20 to cover vacancies and retirements through 2019. So I spoke to you guys yesterday, and we've been speaking during our police meetings about the millennials and the 12-hour shifts. A lot of places are on 12-hour shifts. And unlike older people like me, when I went and was looking to go to work at a police agency, the first thing on my mind is, what's the pay, what's the retirement? Well, now it's, what shifts do you work and how many leave days do I get? Dead serious, that's the way it is. So we've put together a proposal jointly with the union and administration for across the county to go to 12-hour shifts in the places that, they can be done. Well, the pilot program, at some serious urging by myself and some of the people who I work with, is the pilot program we're trying to get passed is to go to 12-hour shifts in Ypsilanti Township starting January 6th. So we'll have that piece to add into recruiting, and it also, for us in Ypsi Township, it actually puts more deputies on each shift all the time. The way that the leave day patterns work and everything, it's really bizarre that you actually get more people working, but you do. And today we got all the work group stuff done. That went, anyway, we had 2 meetings, informational meetings for the union, and it looks like we're going to get that passed. We should know by maybe the 1st, because it's got to go through a union vote. So.
And people have actually left Washington County to go to agencies that have 12 hours.
Yes, one
So
deputy who
for
I
one-
actually started with, Grant Toth, who was an outstanding deputy with about 12 or 13 years on the job, left to go to Ann Arbor based simply on 12-hour shifts.
So they're doing everything they
Yeah,
can.
we're doing a lot. I mean, it's.
And I also think that our traffic enforcement is to help get guns and drugs also off
Absolutely.
the street. It's not just to generate revenue for anything.
Yeah, make no mistake, we're not
And I think you are,
generating
and
revenue.
you've been successful in doing that.
Very
The
successful.
community has benefited, even though it might not be as much revenue.
Well, it's the spear fishing tactic as opposed to net fishing. We've spent a lot of time focusing through crime analysis and whatnot on specific places based on crash data and crime data. You overlay them, and then you focus your efforts in those areas. And we've come up with a lot of narcotics, a lot of guns, a lot of warrant arrests, drunk drivers.
Right, a lot.
And
yeah.
the drunk driving numbers are consistent. I mean, that's the one thing that hasn't dropped, even with your staffing drops. And, everything that Lieutenant Morocco indicated is consistent with what we're seeing in my conversations with Mike Radzik as well. I think with the new hires and things like that, like I said earlier, I think we'll see these numbers come back up.
I would agree.
And I like I said, the number one issue in Neighborhood Watch is speeding.
It's always speeding.
So, I mean, there's still a great need for community needs for traffic enforcement.
Absolutely.
I appreciate everything that you've done.
Well, thank you.
In spite of all the challenges that we have had, but we've still had the positions filled.
Yes.
We didn't fill the 3 new ones that we wanted to this year, but as far as having the 35, you've been
Yes.
able to do that. I just want.
Oh, yeah,
for the
I'm sorry.
record,
We
people to
filled
know
those
that.
positions, but had to fill them with overtime or pulling people from the detective bureau, the specialty teams, that type of thing. So I'm sorry if I misspoke there.
No, I just
We
want to
had
make
what
sure
we were
people know
supposed to
that.
have. So,
We have more than 23 on the road.
oh, absolutely.
Yes. Are there other questions on the court?
Brenda, if I may, I just wanted to make notice of the comment on page 171. If the fund balance goes above 15%, the overage amount will be transferred to the general fund. I didn't budget any amount for 19, but what we'll do is we'll look to see what the ending year is, and if it's over 15, whatever the overage is. So right now, if you look on my last page of the detail, it's on 175. It's at 18% right now, which means I would move 3% of that over to the general fund. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to your attention, that that would be automatic. I wouldn't be bringing that back for a budget amendment because I wouldn't know that until end of the year. So I just wanted to bring that to your notice.
Madam Chair? Yes.
Yes. And I know Lieutenant Morocco, he's still here. Yeah, hopefully the 12-hour shifts will be very helpful. Because I know, like, there are some communities that have had increased traffic patterns that have been verified even by your department. And there are various issues in regards to speeding still. So with the 12-hour shifts, I'm hoping that problem can be more addressed and more rectified in regards to some of the speeding issues. And I'm assuming that 12-hour shifts would be a great way to do that.
Yeah, we're looking at probably your shift minimum, like the shifts will have 25% more people on them at any given time, each shift, so.
And get more time off at the same time.
Exactly, which is really hard to fathom for someone like me, but it actually works. Yeah, so that's what everybody says, but trying to figure it out is just, we were doing the vacation piece, and how do you do that?
Madam Chair,
Training.
the only thing I would say too about 12-hour shifts, I work 12-hour shifts and I like them a lot, of course, but we have mandatory overtime limits in our contract. And you can never be allowed to work more than 16 hours in a row based on our contract language. But I would just say that after that point, it becomes like extremely dangerous to drive home and to be operating a vehicle, so.
Yeah,
that would
ours
be the
is
only thing that
similar.
I'm sure that the unions probably,
Yep, we have 16
about
as
that.
the top,
Okay.
and speaking about the driving home, we actually lost a deputy on his way home.
yeah,
Yeah, Chad Hilborn.
it's,
After 16 hours, 2 16s, he worked 16 hours, off 8, 16
Yeah.
more on Michigan Avenue on his way home. He
it's really hard.
went off the road, yep.
I like work days and midnights, and even driving from a midnight shift from Ann Arbor to Ypsi, I like catch myself, like,
Yep,
it's hard.
so,
Thank you.
Thank you again.
no problem.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any other questions? Mark? We'll get better numbers by November 2, and at the public hearing, you'll have updated numbers. Thank you. LDFA is next. We capture the money to pay the bonds for the utility improvements for the LDFA. We did pay off the Seaver bond, so that was good. Currently, we're collecting enough money to pay it off.
Did you want me to go over that, Supervisor, or is that good enough? Any questions?
I'm not sure.
On the
Are there
debt.
questions? Yeah. I don't think there's. So we have the golf course to go through now. And we're supposed to go into executive session as well. So- I'm sorry, we have to go into executive session. So, huh? Yeah, it should be 10 minutes. We'll see.
Okay.
The new guy gonna come down too? I know the golf course had a rainy year, just like the shelters had a rainy year. It's a footnote in here about the rain dates. Are there any specific questions, or do you want to go through it line by line on revenue?
We can go, sorry. We can go through line by line if you'd like to, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there questions on the revenue for the golf course?
I know there was a question to see how much we had made from 17 to 18 currently. So they are ahead. So if you look on the detail, you have to go to the bottom where the transfers end. You have to take those off of the bottom line number. So the one for 2017, the revenue amount is $810,658. You have to, I'm sorry, on page 197.
We're on revenue.
We're on revenue. So if you wanted to find out the revenue that they earn just on the golf course, you have to take off the 150, the 150,000 and the 188,796 off of the 800. So long story short, the amount you have, it's 11,795. They're ahead this year.
From 17,
From 17.
with the rainy weather.
So you're not
So-
following me? Okay.
She was
Okay.
taking the transfer in.
So the last two lines, well, actually, the last three, it's the transfer in from general fund and the transfer in from BSR 2. You have to take that off of the revenue.
Okay.
You have to, because you can't count that as revenue because that's something given. So you have to take that away. And you do that the same thing on the 2018. You take that 190,000 off that revenue. The difference that you have, so you have the regular revenue, and then the difference of the revenues is that 18 is 11,795 more than what 18 was. So they did do, or 17, sorry. They did do better in 17, or, I am so sorry. Did better in 18.
On the agenda is a proposal to increase, the rates. So that will help also make up for the projected numbers, correct?
Correct.
Just, Madam Chair, a couple of highlights, I guess, if it's okay. I noticed in 2017, that could have been a rain factor, I don't know. But 197,000, this is line 651001. For the 18 holes, this was 197,468. And then in 2018, it was 188,243. But if you look for 9 holes, it actually was in 2017, that was 39,102. And in 2018 was 44,548. So I guess my question on that is, are more people playing 9 holes than 18?
I believe the answer to your question, I believe in the past that it hasn't been broken up according to how the new system is breaking it up, which I have it broke up into 9-hole rounds and 18-hole rounds, whereas a perfect example, like Groupon money in the past has always been put into the 18-hole category. I did that last year. This year I've split it 60-40, so some is going to the cart fees now, so I'm trying to distribute the money in the categories it should go into, so we have a better idea. I truly believe the year that the cart fees were all down, that money was attributed to a discount card at $10, which, okay, the cart fee's $10, take it away, it's a walking fee. So I think that that's kind of what's going on with some of that stuff, is the money is there, but it's been redistributed in different areas. So I'm trying to track it better so that we can match where it's actually supposed to be. Another example is the inventory costs. In the past, all of the inventory costs for trash bags, for buns, for that type of stuff has been tracked as inventory, and it's truly not inventory. So that is why the operating budget for supplies for the golf shop was put up a little bit, because I'm starting to move the money into that category when I do the line items.
Other questions on revenue? Dan?
I just shared mine with Giovanna earlier today. We met for about an hour, a little over, and Kurt, my only question would be, and maybe you've already answered it, your activity on revenues through October 31st, and Giovanna indicated that was all the money that she had seen. It's below what was budgeted for the previous, or for the year, but yet your request for 19 is anywhere from 4 to 19% higher, depending on the category. So are you making the extra money on the anticipated increase in cost to play or cost to buy?
No, I'm actually anticipating the fact that, for instance, last year we were open in February and made $12,000 that's not on the sheet. I mean, you don't know what the weather. We lost $20,000 in April. October probably was roughly a $5,000 loss. So sooner or later, we've got to have times where the weather is going to cooperate, and we should be able to forecast a number based on that, and that is how I came up with the number.
You mentioned February money, it's not on the sheet. You said 12,000
Well, no, when you're looking at what we're up this year compared to last year, that's without 12,000 from last year that we did in February. We did nothing in February.
Okay.
So let's assume
The
hopefully.
12,000 was in 17.
Correct. So let's assume hopefully maybe, and the plan is if we can be open in January, we're open in January. If there's any opportunity to open up and try to make extra money, then we'll do it. Unfortunately, as soon as it got cold last year, the ground froze. You couldn't have people out there walking on greens that were in the condition they were in until I think we opened up March 15th this year. I would have loved to have been open about 2 weeks before that, but it just wasn't feasible based on, talking to Tim and making sure we weren't going to hurt the golf course.
Did I understand Giovanna say, though, that you're $11,000 ahead of
Yes, ma'am.
total revenue from 17?
At this point, and hopefully.
Is that for rounds of golf, or does that include the merchandise and the food and
No,
beverage?
I've actually got some of those numbers.
No, I just asked, does it include everything, probably? Or-
Well, that's including everything, yes.
Okay. I mean, revenue's revenue.
At this point, we're at 24,375 rounds on the year. We're up 1,492 rounds from last year. Out of the 1,492, 494 of them can be contributed to season pass holders. So we're roughly up 1,000 rounds that we're paid for. Based on where I'm looking at trying to get us to, which is about 30,000 rounds, if we average 1,500 to 2,000 a year and continue to try to increase, obviously it's going to be a slow progression, but I think we're on a good path this year. Given everything that we looked at and what we went through as far as weather, heat during the summer, I think it was one of the hottest summers on record. I'm actually pleased with the numbers with the fact that we're up 12,000.
And Chair, I have a question for Giovanna.
Stan? Yeah.
Can you help me grasp? So we're ahead 11,000 and some change from 17, but yet we're still contributing from the general fund 213,000. So if we would have just broke even, the general fund would have still had to contribute 224,000?
That is correct, because, the health care went up.
We didn't go up $200,000.
No,
24%.
24%, not 200,000, but you said
Right.
2024. So 24,000, we could have gone up. We had MERS that increased. We had health care that increased.
Well,
We
we-
had 3% wages that
We
increased.
added a position.
Yeah, the position.
that
I get
was-
those.
Yeah.
I get those.
So that all adds up.
And mine will be, because, Madam Chair, you asked me earlier, and I appreciate it. Just at some point, we have to sit as a board. And I get weather, I do, but that's happened every year since we've been around with this golf course, as long as I remember, since a kid playing there. Weather is always an issue. What we don't talk about is that golf course began to lose money when the auto factories closed and those employees quit coming out for their leagues. Those auto factories and those workers aren't coming back. So we have to figure out at some point, do we continue to take from the general fund over $700,000 for 2 programs, or do we have to look at alternative ways to provide this kind of recreation? That's the discussion we have to have. I think you guys have done a good job there. But we have to look at the budget as a whole and the township as a whole. How long can we continue to fund 2 departments of over $700,000? And Joe, you and I have had that discussion many times. It's not something that Dave Williamson and his group would ever recommend to any municipality to do. So I think that's the discussion. I think you've done a good job. But at some point, we have to figure out a way to do business in a different way that's not as costly to the township as a whole. That's all I have to say about it.
If I could just make one small correction, it's not from the general fund, it's from the, it's
Right, okay.
from Bike Path Recreation and,
It's coming from a fund other than those departments.
yeah, it's.
That's what we
coming
have to
from a
talk
millage.
about.
Yeah, it's coming from a millage fund, but,
Madam Chair.
and I understand that future conversation, but as far as what we currently have, are there questions on the current budget that's before us?
Madam Chair, if I can, just a couple of comments. And number one, I know, and I'm sure other trustees have also, but I've been over to the golf area, particularly in the clubhouse. I can actually say it looks 250% better than when you found it. And I'm just putting it out there because it literally does. It's more of a pleasing environment when you go in, and I think that has attributed to the increase that you have seen. The store looks like a store now. I just want to make sure that I have pointed that out because I base things on what I see, not on what is told. And so when I look at that, where it was and where it is now, I do think you deserve some credit for that. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just concur with both trustees. Kirk, whenever we discuss this, it's not personal, and I think it's so hard to not take it personally.
Oh,
because
sure.
it's like your baby and your job and your pride that you're doing it, and we're so thankful to have you, and we're really happy to see any revenue. But I do, think that in the future, it's definitely a discussion, but thank you.
Well, and I do welcome
Yes.
the new addition, to the township, and I think from me, I have not had the complaints that I've had in the past, which is, and actually had a lot of compliments on the condition of the course, the way people are treated, and I understand Trustee Eldridge's comments, but it used to be a thriving and turnover money to the general fund, and I think the golf course industry in general is taking a hit.
Just as a side note, you're asking why I'm thinking maybe an increase in rounds. Woodland's closed. Hilltop is in question of closing, and Pineview was going to close, and it fell through. So at that point, if that does happen, they're going to have to find some place to play. It's an opportunity to bring leagues over. It's an
Right.
opportunity to bring players over. It's an opportunity to bring outings over. With the addition of a liquor license, it makes us that much stronger. We've looked into that a little bit, and we're kind of starting a process with that. I do believe that that's roughly going to be 10% of total revenue based on the couple different places I talked to. So I think that helps just to get people in there. There's also collaboration to where maybe we figure out a way to work with the community center to use that as a place to house the outings, figure out how we're going to make that look the best to our advantage. And I know we talked about the aesthetics of it. It does have that appearance of the bookshelves and the bookcases and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's an opportunity to try to put some outings in there and put some stuff together and try to go from there and make some revenue from that point.
Okay. All right, we do have to go into, thank you very much for.
Thank you.
We need to go into executive session for the purposes of discussion of Ypsilanti Township versus Pontius Court of Appeals decision. A motion would be in order.
Move to approve.
Motion Wilson, support Eldridge. Roll call vote. Heather? She stepped away. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ross Williams?
Yes.
Lovejoy Rowe? Stumbo vote yes. Doe?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
We are in executive session at, do you have a time, Clerk Rowe? 6:47.